All right, everybody. Another interview. Tyler Garrett, he was my teammate at Southern Indiana. Shout out Southern Indiana. Hard to believe it's interview number 9, but I'm glad to meet with Tyler on Zoom. First Zoom interview. Tyler has a nice perspective on things, on training, on being healthy, on injury. We'll get into all that here in a second. So let's go. All right, we're here with Tyler Garrett. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. All right. Always appreciate you doing this. Been wanting to do this one for a while, so this is going to be fun. All right. So, of course, first question, Tyler. Let's hear about your hometown and where exactly that is.
So I'm from Martinsville, Indiana. Most people won't know where it is, but it's just like south of Indianapolis and then north of Bloomington. And for people who are big basketball people, it's the home of John Wooden. So John Wooden's big in Indiana, out west and stuff. So that's anytime I bring up Martinsville, someone will always say, "Oh, John Wooden." I mean, I was out in LA one time. Someone's like, "Dude, John Wooden." Like he goes, I was like, there's people in the state of Indiana who didn't even know where Martinsville is, but this random guy who was our Uber in LA knew John Woods from Martinsville, and he goes, "Oh, that's got to be awesome." So that's kind of like my hometown, and it's a middle size community, 11,000 people, stuff like that. So a lot of people knew each other, but it's growing slowly. But I don't go back as much anymore. But that's just kind of like the basics of my hometown and where I'm from.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us kind of a little bit about the running culture there, if there really is one, and then kind of maybe segue that into how you got started into track and field and cross country.
So really, the running culture there, it's not that good. I'm gonna be honest with you. Our I wouldn't say I liked our coach and stuff. His problem was that I believe that he was more of a one size fits all type of running plan. So like if this person can do it, you can do it, instead of everyone's different. That was where my problem is. And for me, I started doing cross country and stuff. So whatever. But then I ended up being like more towards a sprinter, like my last 2 years, quick cross country and stuff. So the running culture was bad. Like it was hard to stay on the cross country team because I quit it my senior year to do soccer and did track instead just because of running culture and then all that. There was no, it was just not that good just because people didn't really like it. There was a few people who did who really cared. My senior year, there was this one kid, but when you have a culture that really just doesn't care about running, like you go to track practice, you go to cross country, and no one cares. And that's the biggest thing about, the running culture there. So it was harder. And, just to point off to that about how I got started in running actually was I didn't do sports until like fifth grade. I mean, I was late, fifth or sixth grade, played soccer in a rec league. And the guy's like, "Man, this kid's really good," and whatever. And turned out like the guy's like, "This, you're really fast." So I did soccer for a while. And when I got into middle school, I randomly did track. I never touched cross country during middle school. I did soccer instead. But during track, I just go out there. I was a 100 and 200-meter dash runner for like 2 years. So for me, just being able to do that was fun. And then I moved to the 400 my eighth grade year, then started moving up. Turned out that was a bad idea. So then I found my niche right at the 4 and 8, in the long run. But just those, kind of how I got into running was just through soccer because someone said, "Hey, you're pretty quick out there." So how what can we do with that? And someone's like, "You need to run track." Like I go out there in PE, and the PE coach, or the not the coach, he's not the coach, but the PE guy was like, "You need to run," because he coached in the high school, but not the middle school. He goes, "You got to run something, dude." And, just like that, I was like, you know what, might as well. I got nothing else to do. And that's kind of just how I started running. So, like, I know, like, I'm not the average runner. I don't go out there like during any time. I don't think I've ran more than 40 miles a week ever just because, I was always different. I had a lot of speed. Problem is, during races, I never had the endurance, but I could never run that far without, issues being involved. So that's just kind of like just the basics of how I got into running. It's nothing like special,
Yeah.
everyone's story, some people's are better. And I'm just glad like I did just because of soccer, all because of soccer. Cause I've done baseball. That was a disaster. I made it half the season and quit. So you're telling me, and my dad was always worried, like he goes, "This kid's not going to play sports, is he?" So they threw me in soccer. I like soccer. Turned out, when you can tell if people are fast in soccer, it's the easy sport to figure out, hey, what's going on. And that's kind of how I got into track. And then through soccer, I got into cross country just because one of another close friend of mine, he did soccer. He wasn't that good at cross, but he's like, hey, do you want to be on the team and stuff? And that's how I got into cross. So both separately, they're a little different, just how I got through it. Because one is through just because you're fast, and what, like, you people say you're fast, and one's just because you join cross because you're there to be with a friend and stuff. Which turn I was okay at it, nothing special at cross country, but that's just like the basic story of like how I got kind of into running, or like sprinting, mid distance, or just running in general. That's just the basics.
Yeah. Yeah, good story there. I mean, there's a lot of people through soccer, I feel like. Maybe it's like like, oh, they see you're good, and then there's also some people where it's like, I'm not good enough at soccer like I want to be, so I'm going to run to build that endurance. So it's something you see, but obviously everybody has their own unique twist on it. So kind of want to talk about your success in high school. I mean, I know this because we're friends and we were teammates, but you made it to the state meet and track your junior and senior year. So what kind of kept you motivated, and how did you find that success? Because you told us here that the running culture was pretty non-existent, didn't have the best coaching and setup there. So how did you still do that? Because there's a lot of people that are in that situation in America. There's probably maybe more schools than not that aren't good. Like, maybe there's probably more teams that don't have a good setup than there are teams with a good setup, which is unfortunate for our sport, but that's a different conversation. So how did you still kind of rise to the top there in that situation?
So actually, I think a lot of things that I believe in is timing. I think timing is important. Like everyone talks about, what does the Lord have in plan for you? And for me, I think the timing of it was, I went to this local, it was called Acceleration Indiana. And, through middle school and stuff, like for me, beforehand, it was like, I was good, but the training was bad. I mean, when you're from Martinsville, and the coaches are literally, one lady, loved the lady, was a cheerleading coach, like deal with cheerleaders and stuff like that. The other guy was a football coach. And you're sitting there going like, well, they don't know anything about track. So how am I supposed to get better? Because there's a point where you sit there and say, I'm good, but I'm stuck, because what happens is no one's there to push you. So the running culture is bad. They're not training anyone, even from middle school and not. So I joined this place called Acceleration Indiana, and I trained there for a while. And the people were there, they taught you a lot of form stuff, a lot of that. Then what happened was, they had this guy, his name was Jeff Williams, and he's coached a few high class sprinters. Like, you're talking Mike Rogers, he was part of the 4x1 in the Olympics, that probably would have won bronze behind Jamaica had they not always had their fashion same handoffs like they usually do. USA,
Yeah,
for some reason.
that's a staple.
Um, Candace McGrone was a two-time NCAA champ at Oklahoma. She was Oklahoma or Florida State. He trained people like that. Lena Irby, she was like a 12-time IHSA state champ and went to Georgia, and she was at the trials last year. So you're talking like, this guy's trained a lot of people. And he was talking, and he goes, I don't like taking on people, but he goes, I like taking on people who work hard. And that's what he noticed. So I trained with this guy, and, he kind of teaches you, hey, where you're at's not always going to be the best for you, but, we're going to make sure you enjoy it. We're going to make sure you push yourself hard, and you're going to teach other people as well, because that's the only way. If you can get some people better, that's going to help you in the long run. So, that's how I was able to do it, because I was up on an Indy, towards the New Pal side, every day, Monday through Friday after school. I'd go up there to train for 2 hours, all this technique stuff. I mean, my Instagram used to be posted with that stuff. I took it down because I don't run anymore, but that's besides the point. But like, that stuff I loved, all the mechanical stuff. And there's people now. I was helping this girl recently at a school I'm at, just kind of basic mechanical stuff. And, we're not saying setting the world on fire, but, she dropped 3 or 4 seconds in her first 400. I just gave her some advice and said, hey, if you do this, that's the stuff I was taught. So I took it, and, that's how I kind of stayed sane, or how I pushed myself. Cause yeah, not a lot of people cared. So like, I mean, I kid you not, after my junior year, I finished state. This kid from, when they started football practices, started intertwining with when the state meet happened. And this kid goes, it's not even that hard to get to state, because that's just how they don't care. No one cares about the sport. But you're like sitting there going like, yeah, you don't understand though. And that's what you had to deal with throughout the story. They just did not care. And for me, keeping it and training with people who were, I mean, you're talking like a multiple state champions and all this, and you've seen all this, and working with all these people, that's why I was able to stay sane, because I like to compete. That's what I was taught. So in my back of my head, yeah, practices sucked when I was in high school, but I always look forward to going back up to Indy, training hard with the people that I would always train with. And that's kind of what kept me, you know, I guess top end or high end for high school. Anymore now, it's nothing what I would have done back in the day. I mean, I would have barely made state anymore. So, things change.
Yeah. I mean, you made state. I mean, Indiana's probably one of the, it's hard to say what the best state, but I mean, I think if you ranked every state based off running, I think Indiana would easily be in the top half, but probably you could argue top third, maybe. I mean, it's just so hard to say, but there's a lot of states that come that we're not going to out of respect, but we could list off some states that Indiana is for sure better than. I mean, and Indiana has one division, which definitely makes it harder
Oh,
than what some other states are. Because the other states have divisions. But so yeah, I mean, you made state 2 years in a row, so definitely nothing to not be proud of. So even if your times wouldn't have made it today, but yeah, times are different. But yeah, so shout out to Accelerate Indiana for teaching you and showing you some stuff that you didn't have at your high school. And I mean, it seems like a lot of times in life, if you're willing to put forth the work and willing to try, like stuff will show up. So yeah, I mean that was good opportunity. Thankful that God opened those doors for you, but you also got to be willing to do that. It's just, I mean, you can't just sit on the couch and think that stuff's going to happen
yeah.
just
Yep.
cause. So yeah, that's good there. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to run in college? Or maybe kind of, I mean, everybody probably wants to, but at what point was it like, okay, this is realistic, so like let me look into it. Where was that at?
Probably, I want to say my junior year, but I didn't think about college at that time. I was just running. I was training hard. I wouldn't say until maybe my senior year of indoor. I would do indoor meets at colleges just because that's what we would do. The guy would say, hey, go to these meets. I mean, I ran at Kentucky, one of their big meets that they had, multiple college coaches there. And I was just a high schooler. I'm sitting there going like, man, this is crazy. But like probably around that time, I think I wanted to say like I ran like a 158 an indoor at like Wabash, which is 200 flat. So like those
Yeah.
flat tracks kind of suck. I mean, you ran your best 3K at a flat track, so that's just how
Yeah.
it.
There's a big difference in an 800 and a 3K on a flat 200. The shorter the event, I think
it,
it gets harder because you're
it
going faster.
oh yeah, no, it's the turns suck because I'm sitting there going like, man, this is. But what's crazy is some of my best indoor races have been um, on flat tracks for some reason. But just around there, I knew I kind of had a chance or something, and that's what I wanted to do because I was sat there, and I would visit random colleges on all the time, and I happened to run into the head coach of Old Miss, which her name is Connie Price Smith, and she was really nice. She talked to us. She knew the area we were from in Martinsville, and we are just explaining stuff. I said, I know I'm not going to run at Old Miss and stuff, but I do want to run, and we were just talking about it because I forget how she was associated with the state of Indiana, but she knew where we were from, and she said, you know what, you sound determined and stuff, you'll be able to run and not. And she was just impressed. And I mean, because I was talking about just some of the runners, because Robert Domanic was there, so I saw him there, like got to see him. I didn't meet him, but he was running. She said I missed Sam Kendricks by like 20 minutes. He was out there training. So stuff like that, you're like, oh my gosh. And she was so nice. Like I wasn't even a recruit. I was nothing. I mean, if I went to Old Miss, the best I could do was I would be there for a manager purpose. Like, hey, we'll keep this guy as a manager. Cause I was talking about, I said, do you have any managers? She goes, yeah. Cause I said, I don't know what I want to do. Cause at that point I didn't. She goes, oh, absolutely. I go, I don't care if I want to run, but I like track a lot. And she goes, your knowledge is ridiculous, but if you keep working hard, stuff like that. And she was really nice. Like, I'll never forget it. She definitely doesn't remember who I am now, but I still remember that interaction. I was like, man, that was really nice to say. Like, she could have said, yeah, you can't really, good luck or stuff like that. Or like, yeah, you can't really go anywhere. But no, she was like, if you work hard, stuff like that. She was really nice. And around that time, and then I didn't really contact anyone until mid outdoor season. And my first contact was I'm trying to think. It was either USI or Trine, which Trine University was really after me. My biggest problem there was the closer you got to Michigan, the colder it got. And for me, I'm just like, no, I was like, no, I'm good. But my problem was I contacted Mike Hilliard at USI and he directed me to Jamal Johnson. Jamal was only there for like what, two and a half, I think, not that long, but
2.5, I think.
When I emailed him at the time, I was still around. My best time was from indoor. It was like a 1:59 or 1:58 at that point. And he was like, yeah, we're going to need like maybe a couple seconds off. And at, what was it? At sectionals, I ran like a 1:56.7. And I emailed him back, hey, I ran a 1:56, whatever. And he goes, oh man, that's awesome and stuff. And then that's when he was like, hey, do you want to come on and visit sometime? And I said, sure. And I think I went probably after regionals. I think I went to regionals. After regionals, I went to USI to just kind of talk about that kind of stuff with him. And I was like, okay, like we were talking and stuff. And I was like, I really like him. I kind of gave my story that for me as an 800 guy to be able to run, I was able to run a 49.5 in the 400. Problem is, what killed me was the endurance, but no one could figure out why I couldn't hold on for, like, I always had to sit and kick. I mean, my best race after regional, I came through at a minute in the 400 and I closed in at like a 56.3, whatever. I mean, I was like one flat, ninth place at regional, how to get top 3 to get to state. And here I am absolutely mowing down the field, because if I went out too quickly, I knew there's a chance I could die, just because I was more of a sprinter base than I was actual middle distance, I guess. So like, I don't think I ran more than 5 miles a week total. And that's like a regular run where someone's like, yeah, I've done 5 miles. I was like, I might have done that in a week. Like, just because that's not how I ever trained. So like for me, I was telling Jamal that, and he goes, that's good to hear, because there's a lot of potential there. He goes, no, just you raw speed like that. He goes, that is great to have. We just got to figure out that. And that was the biggest thing. And I think I committed after state meet, because I got 11th, and you got to get top 9 to get a medal. And I was 0.0 like 0.07 off of getting them from 11th to 9th, and like 0.3 away from 5th place. I mean, that's how close 5th to like 12th was. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is it. And, but that's kind of just the basics of like my collegiate career, just kind of getting in those contacts. I like to try and coach a lot, but just kind of felt I liked USI a lot. I liked the culture. I liked the coach. Just that was helpful. Just, and it's, I don't want to say I didn't want to go to small campus. I didn't want to go to large campus, but USI is like a medium-sized campus. I feel like when we were there, I mean, it doesn't feel like that because everyone commutes, so you barely see anyone. But, that was for me kind of like that process of how I got to college, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a unique story. But everybody's unique. But I think you're different there, because I think some people thinking about it since like freshman, sophomore year, and they're like trying really hard. But yeah,
Exactly.
so yeah, I mean, talk about the 400. I know that was something like at USI. It was like, oh, Tyler's always good for a 49 something, 49 point. Like if it's a 4x4, it's a DMR. Like Tyler's good for it. Like, we had some guys. Yeah, they're capable of it, but are we going to get a 49 or a 51 or whatever, or a
You never
48? I don't know, but
know exactly. We always had a couple people that said, you could either see a 50 flat, a 49, or they could go a 52 or 53. And you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
we need someone reliable. Now, that was
Yeah,
always,
but I know that was something the coaches always liked about you is on a relay. It's like, hey, he's good for it. Like, and that's important. It's important with relays is like knowing what you're gonna get. Like you
oh
can't
yeah.
always I mean, you can't always look at potential. It's like, what's this? Like, you gotta like look at the people that are consistent. So that was always a nice feature that you brought to the team. So kind of want to briefly, and I told you about this beforehand. So also wrote we got about I think 16 minutes now on the timer. But anyway, so I want to briefly talk about just maybe spend a minute or two here, just kind of talking about like you as a teammate, because I mean, you weren't, at USI, you were good, you were always consistent, but when we knew, but at the same time, it's like not to knock on you, but it's like okay, you weren't like an All American, or any, national champ, anything like that. But I think personally, you were a really good teammate. I'll tell the viewers here, like, there were some times with me, maybe I was slacking in school, and you made some comments or were encouraging or helped out because we were in the same major and you had taken classes, so you were encouraging there. And like, that's not something people see, and I knew you do that for some other guys too. And that's not gonna, you pull up your bio on USI's website, there's not going to be anything in there about, oh, Tyler was encouraging to his teammates in school, so it also, there was times where I was running bad, and you were there encouraging. But I mean, you weren't like sugarcoating it, like, oh, it's okay, Titus, like it's okay to have a bad race, it's okay to keep having bad races. But you were like encouraging, and you were always there for some guys. And I think it's easy for people to, oh, if you're winning races being good, like there's people that, oh, everybody wants to be your favorite teammate. But you were always consistently like encouraging, and a good teammate. And like I said, I know you did that for more than just me, and kind of helped keep people in line. I know he may not want us telling this, but Silas, I think his freshman year wasn't running quite what he should have. And I think you said something because he kept buying like these, his diet was like just a bunch of cheap frozen stuff because it was easy. And I think, you made a comment, but obviously you didn't do that in front of the whole team or in the group chat. So I just want to briefly, I kind of say all this to say, like, briefly for, like I said, a minute or two here, like what was kind of your mindset on how you can bring some of those intangibles to the team for, to be a good teammate and,
Yeah.
and motivate each other?
So, I mean, it's easy because for me, I guess I keep my friends really close to me. Like if I'm really close with you, I'll be the best teammate ever to you. I was really good with other people. I mean, you're talking like, we would go to meets, to support the team because we never had any home events really for track and field. I mean, we took a group to Tampa,
Yeah,
The boys team did bad.
we
Um,
did really bad.
but that's just, I wanted to do it because I'm the one who got it together. Like I was like, let's go to Tampa. Let's go support these guys. Yeah, it sucked, but that's just who I was because I'm like, we're not going to get this chance again. Like we're not, we don't always get this. And for me, everyone's crying and not trying to, we're not going to throw anyone at that bus, but people were crying and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, it's going to be okay. You know what? I
Mhm.
know it sucks. There's nothing I can say that's going to help this, but that's kind of teammate I was like, how can I look out for you? Like, I mean, we've had multiple people who are in bad situations and it's like, hey, how can I help you? Because like, so, you brought up Silas and his eating habits, and we'll talk about this. My number one enemy was eating. And
Mhm.
honestly, if I could go back, that's a big thing I would do. And that's why you're like, hey, so, his eating habits are a little weird. This kid's got so much potential, but you're only harming yourself by doing that stuff. So just noticing small things. And I watch people. That's what I do. I watch people to see their movements and stuff and analyzing them because you're like, okay, well, what's going on? Why is this happening? And you kind of notice stuff like that. So for me, encouragement, being there for people, because if not, I should have been kicked off the team. Like my running wasn't that good. I was average, but like for me, like when Hilliard needed something when I became a GA for the athletic team, he said, hey, is there any way that you can drive a van for us? Can you do this for us? Absolutely. So like it's like an intangible that yeah, he may not be the best, but we're going to rely on Tyler because he's always going to be helpful in anything Hilliard need. I was always up in the athletic department because I worked there. And if he needed something, he'd always ask, hey, can you do this for me? And I'd be like, yeah. So it was like kind of like that. I was there for them and people like that. And, just
Yeah.
having people on runs and that's where like I've talked to many people like, yeah, I needed to hear that. That's kind of like I didn't want to be rude about it, but you can't sugarcoat things because you're just going to fall in the same trap. So that's kind of like what my ideal of a teammate was.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely did a good job. And I mean, maybe there's some teammates that would disagree with that, but I don't really care. I know, I mean, like I said, I know for me, you had a good impact on my time there, and I know some other guys would say that. So yeah, definitely some good stuff there. Yeah, I mean, I know there was a few times, several races that you came to watch, even when you weren't racing. Sometimes not everybody races that weekend, and you would drive up, even if it was like, I mean, I know one time you drove up to Bloomington. It's like, okay,
Bloomington,
it's only 2 hours, but still, like, it's a 4 hour round trip and stuff. So took the time there. So
never forget
yeah,
though. I had to pay a ticket. I had to pay a ticket. So that
yeah. Hey,
ticket. I got a double whammy because I wanted to go anyway. I was like, perfect. But that's besides the point. I still went, but there was also
yeah,
other. You know.
yeah, yeah. But no, definitely. Like us, I mean, is important. I think for me, like I said, there was times I was running good, and everybody wants to be your buddy, but there was some. And I think you mentioned Tampa. Like, yeah, our men's team, we ran so bad. We were like 27th. I think there's like 32 teams. I mean, we should have been like, we could have got 19th, and I'd have been like, that wasn't a good day. I mean, honestly, we had the potential to be a top 10 team, and we're out here getting 27th. But you were there, and I think, I'll say this after the race, you didn't really say anything to me, but you were there, and I think, but not everybody has that kind of instinct. Some people want to sit there and talk, try to like fix it, but you were just like, hey, man, you were there, and I think that was important to kind of have you there, but also like, have you had enough sense to not say anything, because sometimes that's better. So you did that at times, so that was good too. But yeah, yeah, I know, always appreciated your support. Let's see here. So let's see, we got 10 minutes here. So you had an injury, what, about halfway through college, or maybe or a little before halfway.
Yeah.
So don't want to dive into that too much just for time's sake, but Tyler had a stress fracture in his foot, um, which is not that you want a stress fracture anywhere, but if you could pick, you'd probably pick some areas other than your foot, just because the foot doesn't heal as well. And it's also harder, I think, to cross train. And I think you'd agree with that. But so, maybe looking back, hindsight, they say hindsight's 2020, but part of why I do these interviews is so people can learn, advise, yeah, younger people, especially like high school. I think about like high school kids and maybe people going into college. So if you could go back and like, is there anything you would change leading up to that injury that you think caused that? I know you mentioned diet. Do you feel like that had something to do with it? And then once you got injured, was there anything you would change, looking back?
So yeah, there would be because I mean when I got my foot surgery, the biggest thing the doctor told me, and he was a solid doctor. He said make sure to keep your vitamin D up because turns out like I don't know, I got a blood test and turned out my vitamin D was not the best, not the worst ever, but it was on like more of the okay, there's moderate issues, you're on alert. So part of me thinks, but I mean, you're talking bones right there. So that's what happened, broken, stress fracture. So part of me wishes, and he always said it attributes to your diet, just your recovery and all this stuff. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're not taking care of your body, what happens? It shuts down on you. You don't know it because you're like, man, I'm running fine right now. And all of a sudden, it started with Achilles tendon pain. Essentially, like I had tight Achilles. Well, knowing me, I'm like, I can't stop. I kept running, kept running, kept running. And all of a sudden, just the top of my foot just was like, oh my goodness, like this is unbearable. Like I could barely walk. I mean, I'm trying to think, were you at the UAB, the Birmingham race?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
I
was
was
at that one.
after that 800. I
Yeah.
mean, it was that bad because I was like, and I already had issues beforehand. I ran like a 157, 800 somehow on a navicular stress fracture. Problem was, we didn't get to a doctor. We just said rest. We went to Grand Valley, ran a DMR, and my leg was swinging because I
Yeah.
couldn't put any pressure on it. And that's when
Uh-huh.
Hilliard and Johnson were like, "Hey, we got to get this checked out and find." And
Yeah.
we comes with our athletic trainers.
Yeah, that's a
Lord,
different that's a different
that's
conversation.
yeah, that's different. But when you don't want to go to the athletic trainers just because of that, I like Laura and stuff, but some of the trainers were just not that good. So you just kind of want to hide from it. Turned out they're like, yeah, you have a stress fracture. COVID hits. I can't get a surgery until October. So you're talking like 6 months later. So I didn't run from that February all the way till what like almost 2 years later is what happened. Cause I mean, I
Hmm.
didn't run 6 months and then it took me, so you're talking like 14, 15 months I wasn't running. So a year
Yeah.
and a half, and you were there when I ran. So like a big difference I say to people who are watching this, take care of your body, take the necessary vitamins, because like I'm saying, if you have low vitamin D, which apparently I did, which is a big cause of stress fractures and stuff like that, take it. Take care of your body. Get rest.
Yeah.
Recover well. Don't take it for granted because when you try to, and if you're injured, don't do me and think I'm Superman. This is no big deal because you'll only make it worse. And looking back on it, if maybe I never kept running on that and stopped, maybe I would have never had a stress fracture. We won't know. But if I would have taken care of my body, for what before I got to college, because training started really ramping up and doing different stuff, and now you're trying to adjust to it. And once you got it figured out, it's like, man, I'm not taking care of my body. So like that's the biggest thing for me. If I could go back, just taking care of your body is going to be your biggest friend for making it the whole year of college, because the whole time I was playing catch up. I mean, the first 400 I ran was a 56 in an indoor race. I looked at my dad and I said, I did that in middle school. It's like, what is going on? And I was just mad the whole time. I wanted to quit, but I never did because I know deep down that I was like, I don't quit. Like, you don't quit something because it gets hard. You quit
Yeah.
because you really are unable to do it. I was able to do it, but it was hard because I would turn around and was injured all the time after that. I don't think there was a week. Like, it would be like, oh, I was good for a week. And all of a sudden it'd be like, man, my calves are tight. Like, oh my gosh, or my Achilles
Hmm.
are tight. I'm having feet issues. So I tell you what, your biggest friend is going to be take care of your body.
Yeah, that's great advice. And yeah, I mean, we talked about like taking a vitamin, or something. I mean, and it could not just be vitamin D, it could be iron. Iron's a common one you see. And I think even people that eat a generally healthy diet, they forget that, what may be normal, like, okay, this is a healthy diet for the everyday Joe
Yeah.
Blow walking down the street. Like it's still not quite enough when you're running, like especially with distance, maybe if you're, I'm not trying to discredit, but maybe if you're doing the 100 meter, it's different. But when you're training mid distance and distance, you're running a lot of mileage, and you're going to need that extra. So that's why a lot of times distance runners, we take an iron pill or a vitamin D. But yeah, that's great advice, especially with something like that, you don't fix that overnight.
No.
So yeah, for the younger people watching, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
be on top of those kind of things. It pays off in the long run. And yeah, don't be afraid to go see somebody. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean,
obviously, maybe not after the first day if it hurts, but if you have something persistent 2, 3, 4 days a week, like you need to see somebody about that. And you're not being soft or a quitter, but I mean, you're going to have to quit when you get a
yeah.
stress fracture. In a
No.
sense, you didn't quit the team, but you had to quit training.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I,
that's great advice. Take care of your body, because I mean, you could do the training plan can be perfect. Not that there is a perfect training plan, but I mean, you could have a great coach with a great training plan, but if you're eating bad, sleeping bad, not doing some other stuff, it doesn't matter. So I think
no.
that's great advice. So let's see here. We got 3.5 minutes. Let's see here. Maybe some like rapid fire kind of. Did you have when you were racing? Do you have a go-to like meal the night before?
Well, my diet was bad, but whatever, Well, we were never home, so it's not like we're sitting here going like, man, I'm bringing my lunch. whatever, we would have. But during high school, it was probably pasta. I mean, that's
Pasta.
common. But yeah, but when we're at USI, wherever Hilliard sent us to Jimmy John's, that's what's for dinner,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah. Was
But
there anything though, like again, you didn't have the best diet, but like day before a race or race day, was there anything you avoided?
the only thing that I would like, probably a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff doesn't sit right in my stomach because I always had acid reflux. So like if I would race, it would want to come up afterwards. So like I had to do like only peanut butters and bagels and stuff like that. Like that was
Okay.
it. Like
Yeah, I
that
mean
was
that's good. Peanut butter bagel is good. I mean, I know there's a lot of elite runners, much better than me and you, like some Olympians. That's go to their peanut butter bagel. That's always a staple. Obviously, don't want to lather half the tube of half the jar of peanut butter on there. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. We got 2 minutes.
here. Let
Let me
me
see.
here. I'll add something for you.
Yeah, give us
So one
something.
thing, which I wanted to talk about with the injury. The when you so like for me, I felt like that was going to be my best year. I really do. I mean, I went in and ran that 600 and a 122 on that for some reason at Wabash. It's like a
Wabash track.
109. So it converted and I still ran it terribly. Like for me, for some reason, I could never race that. I don't race that well. Like strategy, it's like I could do it, but I never could. And part of me thinks that because knew I was going to have a good season, is I didn't want to stop. And I want to just point out, when you think you're going to have that good, like if you think you're going to have that good a season in injury, don't push it, man, because in the long run, you're going to end up like me fighting it. And you're just fighting for, like, I finally put it at a 155, like 3 or 155.4. It took me 4.5 years to get back to that point. Don't let that happen to you.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Yeah, don't. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could sum it up with don't get greedy or don't get ahead of yourself. And then also kind of another side of that is don't get lazy just because things are your fitness is good or things are going well. So yeah, that's good to add. So well, we're about to run out of time here on Zoom, but Tyler had some good stuff. I think that a lot of kids especially could learn from. So we appreciate your time and we appreciate everybody watching. Thanks, Tyler.
Absolutely. Hey, take care.
All right, you too.